Aase Liv Gulbrandsen was born in 1927 in Oslo, and she died just a month before this video was made in 2020. And she lived most of her life in Oslo. She's mostly self-taught, except she studied for a short time at the Bjarne Engebert's painting school in the 60s. But she was granted study travels to Africa, the United States, South America, and spent a year in Kenya in the 50s and in Brazil also in the 50s. She spent about a year in each country. In her painting, she used charcoal, pencil, pastels, oil paints, acrylic paints, and lithography. And she had a studio at the Frische Art Center in Oslo and in Lommedalen as well. And then she was granted studio space in Paris. Already in her debut exhibit in 1970, her work was recognized for its originality and sensitivity. And as she said, she liked to paint and draw outdoors. She was inspired by nature, she said, but actually also by interiors, and she's well known for her interiors. But she worked spontaneously and impulsively, without planning, and she often repeats motifs. She may start with a realistic scene, but ends up abstracting it, using impressionistic techniques, simplifications, and editing of extraneous materials, often until only the sense of things is left. And she once said, "There's much in nature the eye does not see." And she worked her paintings over and over again sometimes. She liked to take up old paintings and rework them or keep working on them for a long time. Now, her charcoal drawings have attracted special attention in her home country of Norway for their sensitive renderings of dark and light, but it's her large abstract canvases that I think are her most important works. They have a poetic beauty, a sense of mystery, lyrical freshness, the freshness of a sketch, but they're also well balanced. Her biography has something to do with these paintings that are large and abstract. She lived through World War II and the occupation of Norway when she was in her 20s. Now, she spent time in Africa in her 20s and 30s, where she garnered some of the freshness and rawness of her expressionism. And she spent time in Brazil, South America, where she no doubt picked up the power of color and the boldness of expression. But there are also events that she shares with other Norwegians which would have impacted her. And one of them was the 2004 earthquake in Sumatra, which killed many Norwegians who were vacationing in Thailand at the time. Also, the 2011 attacks on the Government Workers' Youth League in the Utøya Island outside of Oslo. And also, in 1986, the Chernobyl disaster, which sent high levels of radiation over both Sweden and Norway. And they're still dealing with the effects of that to this day. Now, these events are upsetting for Norwegians, but they are also explosive events. And I see some of that explosive energy finding its way onto her canvases. Now, she had an atelier in Paris as well, and her work strongly resembles another abstract expressionist also living in Paris, and that's Joan Mitchell. Artists in the day were encouraged to strike out boldly and not be locked into domesticity or tradition, even though she enjoyed the domestic scene and often painted the Scandinavian interior traditional type of painting. She inherited the darkness of Edvard Munch, and that is often evident in her color palette. But I see in her work a tug and pull between the simplicity of modernism, Scandinavian modernism, and the ornateness of folk culture, and the darkness of the Nordic temperament. That is a struggle or conflict that gives her work enormous energy. She was a serious painter, and she showed in important places. Her works are in national collections in Norway. And I think she's one of the important painters of our day.